Hey Gearheads, and welcome to Garage Talk, a discussion about all things automotive. I'm Cory.
And I'm Matt. And each week this podcast will serve as a catalyst for discussion on all sorts of topics that grind our gears, rev our engines, or just need a bit more conversation.
And on this week's episode, we've got something special for you. Matt, why don't you spill the beans?
Well, our guest this week is the president of a magazine that has been around since 1959 and is responsible for its recent resurgence in popularity. We have the privilege of sitting down with none other than Marc Methot, owner of Cartoons Magazine. We get to pick his brain a little bit about the industry, some comic books, and a little more.
You can find out more about Marc and his magazine at cartoonsmag.com. You can find out more about Garage Talk and what we're into by liking us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at GT Garage Talk, or heading over to our website, gtgaragetalk.com. That's enough about us. Let's welcome Marc to the show.
Sounds great. Well, Marc, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for joining us on this podcast episode, and just wanted to find out some more about the magazine, more about you, and just take a few minutes and get to know each other a little better. So tell us a little bit about the magazine. I mean, I can Google the magazine and find out, 1960 and Peterson publication, things like that. But give me some of the nitty gritty, how it came about, how you ended up with it, things like that.
Well, back in 1959, Pete Millar and Carl Kohler, they came up with this concept of creating a comic book based on cars. And so in 59, they published 4 issues for the year. And they were like the little booklets from back in the day, the digest size books. And Peterson Publishing caught on it, and they bought the rights into it and turned it into a magazine. And then they started putting that on the newsstand in 1960 and on.
Awesome.
And about 1975, they redid the whole look of cartoons, and they ran it up until about 1991.
Okay.
And that was around the time when Peterson Publishing got out of magazines altogether, and it was sold off. It exchanged a few hands of companies, but nothing was ever done with it since 91. So about early 2015, I was off work because I had a work-related injury, and I was off part-time. And I was just surfing the internet, and I found a broker website. And this broker website does with patents, trademarks, all stuff like that.
Okay.
And I was searching on there, and I came across this one trademark. I don't know if you remember the toys from the 80s called Mask. I don't know if you remember those at all.
I don't.
No? Well, it depends on how old you guys are. So these toys, they were really popular. They were model-sized cars.
Yeah. And
they came with little figures, and they transformed into these military-type vehicles.
Okay.
They had a cartoon series back in the day on it. They were huge, and then they disappeared.
Wow.
And that trademark was abandoned since 1986. So,
shout out. Good year.
So I filed for the trademark, and about a week later, their lawyers came back, and they said, unfortunately, Hasbro filed for it 4 days before you did.
Wow. Oh, man.
Yeah, so I'd missed out on that, and they told me my money wasn't refundable, that I paid in to file for it. They said, but it was credited, so to look for another trademark. So that's when I started thinking really nostalgic, and cartoons was one of them.
Awesome.
Because I used to read cartoons when I was a kid. And so that was abandoned for 4 months.
Yeah.
So I filed for that, and I ended up getting it.
Wow.
But then I had to go through this whole process. And it took about a good 6 months, maybe 8 months. And they kept wanting more money. But I was dedicated. And then officially it was mine. And the way trademarks work is you have to do something with it.
Right.
Okay. You can't just file for a trademark, get it, and just sit on it.
Right.
So I had to prove to them that I'd do something with it. I went on social media, letting people know that, I had this trademark and I wanted to start publishing cartoons again because it needed to come back. And just everything blew up on social media about it. A lot of people were skeptical because they thought Peterson still owned it. Right. And they're like, who's this guy? And especially with a lot of scammers these days on the internet.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So I had, but when I reached out on social media, letting people know, a lot of the original artists approached me, and then a lot of new artists that used to read cartoons approached me, and they wanted to be a part of this. They wanted to start drawing comic strips for the new magazine.
Very cool.
So we started with a lot of research, and because I didn't know nothing about publication when I got the rights to this, like absolutely nothing.
You were coming in green.
Yeah. So I had some help from, I knew Steve. He was the owner of Rat Rod magazine.
Okay.
And great guy. And anytime I'd have questions or run into obstacles, I'd ask him, and he was great. He helped me out along the way. A lot of research in that. So we got to the process that we're going to get this magazine start publishing again. And at this time, I already had the artists coming up with comic strip stories for the first issue. So when we were working on that, then we needed funding, right?
Okay.
So I tried wasn't a GoFundMe. I think it was something else. I can't remember. And so we tried that to have people donate money,
right?
And in exchange, they would get a subscription, stuff like that. But a lot of people, again, were still skeptical that I didn't own the rights to cartoons. So I did raise a little money, enough money that I was like, okay, we're not going to go to full production on the newsstands with this issue. We're going to do a limited run.
Okay.
I had enough of that just to prove to everybody
that
this is legit. This was happening.
Real. Yeah.
Yeah. So we ended up doing a print run of 2,500 copies, and we still have them. It's still that's probably our most limited issue that any collector would want to buy. They definitely want I call it the trial issues, issue number 0. So once I put that out there, then people realize and they're like, oh, this is really happening, right? So once we got the website going, everything, and set up for subscriptions, then just everything just went from there. And we've been growing we've been doing it. This is our 5th year.
Very cool.
On publishing cartoons.
So have you come up with any or run into any obstacles as far as, because magazine publications are disappearing. I walked through one of the big box places here recently, and there's next to no car magazines there anymore. How are you combating that change in the market?
Well, you don't see much car mags anymore because one of the biggest publishing companies, they had taken down 19 of their 21 magazines they were running.
Wow.
But I'm determined because I feel cartoons is completely different than any other magazine.
Exactly.
Because it's more of a comic book.
Yeah.
And people want to have a print copy of a comic book than digital.
Definitely.
And whether they just wanted to have it to read in hand, keep it, put away, collect it, might be worth money someday. That's what collecting's all about, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that with cartoons, it's in its own genre that won't be affected by the magazine market dying, in my opinion. So,
awesome.
And a good example is you can go to mostly any comic book shop worldwide and order cartoons at any comic shop. So
fantastic.
Yeah, and I see on your website, cartoonsmag.com, you've got a map of where to buy, so you can find out places to buy just there on your website, and we've got several right here in Tyler, Texas, where we're based. So that's
we're
awesome.
We're in retail stores too, and we're in Walmart, Barnes and Nobles, and that.
Yep.
And we're still growing to try and be in more stores, and especially now because when the pandemic hit, a lot of stores are closed, and now we're starting to get back to normal again. And
right.
Cool.
So getting it out there. But majority of our sales in that are on the website.
Okay.
Because a lot of people would like to subscribe and have them shipped right to the door instead of them having to go search for it, hunt it at a store, and hopefully it's not sold out or not available there or whatever. So,
well, you kind of tapped into it earlier in your story about purchasing it and the nostalgia of it all, and actually having the paper copy there in front of you. And there's something special about getting that subscription in the mail. I know for years I subscribed to a couple well-known car magazines, and I looked forward to getting those in the mail. And I had over a decade of both magazines in my collection before I finally decided it was time to get rid of them. A decision I am now regretting, but there's always just something special to receiving that in the mail and then being able to flip through it and read through it and look through it and touch and feel and experience it in that way. So I totally agree with you on that nostalgia aspect of it.
Well, like one thing too is I'm going to say a good 50% of my customers, when they find out the magazine's back that used to read it from years ago, they would go on my website, they would subscribe right away, and they would buy up every back issue because we have every back issue available from when we started.
Awesome.
And that's unheard of. Like when anybody who subscribes to magazines not going and buying up every back issue that they missed.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but with cartoons being a collectible, everybody's got to have every issue, which is great.
Oh,
you know? And yeah.
So what is it like being the owner of something that you used to enjoy in your youth? Like, was it surreal?
It's big time surreal. And it's just like, I'll think about it and I'm like, I can't believe I own it. And I definitely can't believe that I'm publishing it because, if you would have told me 6 years ago that it'd be publishing a magazine, I would have said you're crazy because, I knew absolutely nothing about it.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll tell you, I've learned a lot. I'm still learning and still going forward.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So I want to dig into a little bit about the person behind the magazine and get to know you a little bit and your love for cars. Are there any just outstanding cars in your personal car history?
Well, I've owned a lot of cars in my life. I've been a car person since I was born because my father is.
Yeah.
And he's right into the old stuff, which I am in now.
Yeah.
But me growing up, I went through all the phases. I remember I was right into the import scene.
Okay.
I remember I bought, it was a 92 Hyundai Sonata. And it was a 4-door car, and it was the most ugliest thing ever. And all my friends were like, why did you buy this grocery getter? But I seen the potential of this car, so I ended up fixing it up. I threw 17s on it, and at the time, 17s were probably the biggest rim you could put on a car.
Yeah.
So they looked huge. And I did the spoiler and, the tinting, the stereo, and everything and all that. And I debadged the car. So when I driving the car after all done, everybody loved it. They were like, this is such a nice car. What is this
thing?
Yeah.
And I'd leave them always playing the guessing game. And when they found out, they were just blown away. They were like, Hyundai Sonata, right?
That's awesome.
And I remember we were in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the world premiere of Fast and the Furious was playing that Friday. And I had my car. So we went to watch the movie. And I got it all on video because after the movie, we got out earlier, pretty much before everybody else. And I went and I parked in the corner of the parking lot. Was the only way to get in and out.
Right.
Yeah.
And you see all these guys with all these souped up imports just revving it up and doing burnouts and everything. It was hilarious.
That's awesome.
And then I think when that movie was done, then everybody got into the neon lights and the fart cans and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The really big wings. But then, I was into the mini truck scene too.
Okay.
I had a slammed 86 S10. I had a 87 Safari cargo van,
nice
GMC Safari, and I had that all slammed down and airbrushed and all that. And then as I got older, I started getting back into the older stuff. And I had a 1950 Chevy pickup. It was a 5-window. It was all flat black, lowered with white walls, and chrome rims and that. And then now I have a 1950 Plymouth, and it's chopped, shaved, it's bagged, and it's flat black, all that stuff. And that's what I really love. Anything pre 1950.
Okay.
I like curves. I like, when it comes to cars, I love the round curves and that.
Oh yeah.
And so.
Probably not a fan of Cadillac's current design direction then, huh? angles and
I know.
wedges. And
I like a lot, like whether it's new, old. I do prefer the pre-50s, but you know, I see a lot of others, like in the muscle car scene. There's a lot of cars I respect there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Another car I would love to have in my collection is a early 1970s to 77 Toyota Celica. I think those are beautiful cars.
Okay.
If you look at them, they kind of look like an old Mustang.
Yeah.
You know, and they're
long
very
nose.
rare. Yeah, and they're very rare because especially up here north, they all rotted, right?
Yeah.
So, and they were recycled because people never looked at them as a collector car. And
Sure.
So
It's
but
amazing.
yeah, I'm pretty much all over the place with cars.
It sounds like it, from imports to mini trucks to. I'm surprised you owned anything American and from the 90s. That was not a great time for American vehicles. I'm glad
All
you
my
said,
daily drivers I went through were everything else in between.
Yeah, I'm glad you said S10 because GMC, the twin to that vehicle, had the Typhoon, and that thing was ridiculous at the time. So there was definitely a lot of potential in that platform that was not fully exploited from the manufacturer. So tell us about, we'll shift gears, pun intended, back to your magazine and how you incorporate your love for cars and into, I'm guessing all of the artists that you work with are highly into cars, and that is a frequent water cooler, if you want to call it, discussion up there. So what's a day in the life of cartoons look like?
Well, how do we do this in short form? Well, basically, like when it's coming up time for a new issue, I'd have to figure out with the amount of artists that I use in it, how many pages they get to make it all fit together. And that's to mix it in with our ad pages, which I have very little of. And I want to keep it that way. I don't want the whole thing full of ads.
Yeah.
If I do that, I think the magazine would be done.
Yeah.
And so most of the time I'll come up with a theme, whether it's on a celebrity, an automotive celebrity guest, or something car culture, whatever. We would run with that. And so I'd reach out to my artist and say, here's how many pages I want you to do. Here's the theme. And I'd let them run with it.
Awesome.
And sometimes I'll give my suggestions on what I'd want to see in the story or whatever. But I'm pretty much let them be free to do what they want.
Nice.
Just guide them in the right direction. And then they have a certain deadline to have these pages completely done. But in between, once they're done the roughs, they'll send me the roughs that I could go over. I got to make sure that it's family friendly. If there's nothing prerogative in it, and also, maybe sometimes the story just needed a little sprucing up. That's better for the reader. So I'll give a suggestion in that, and then they'll be off to finish the final artwork and to meet their deadlines. And then once all the artwork's in, then I have to piece it all together to make it fit. So as you're reading it, you know what I mean? Especially like, say if it's a 3-pager story, I want to have that punchline page you have to turn, right? The next page to see it. So it's not just in your face, straight beside.
Right.
And then in the meantime, while they're doing all that, I'm creating new ads to promote cartoons, to put in the magazine and stuff. And I do that through all Photoshop. Yeah. And, and then also too, we have pages that I put together where readers could send their artwork in.
Nice.
And to possibly be published in the magazine. So I'll have to pick the artist and put their artwork in and Photoshop all that together, get those pages together. And once it's all done and everything's finished and we have it all put together, all the final, it's done deal. The cover is all put together. And then with the scheduled date, it gets uploaded to print, and it gets printed and it's scheduled to get shipped out to all the subscribers, and it gets shipped out to distribution, comic shops, all that stuff.
Awesome.
And then boom, we're on to the next magazine. So
super simple process.
Starting all over again.
So,
well, it's like we do this every 2 months, so it's a bi-monthly magazine.
Okay.
And it would be literally impossible to do it once a month.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure it could be, but then I'd be working.
You wouldn't have a real life.
200 hours a week.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm scrolling on your artist page right now. You've got quite a good collection of artists as it is. How would a reader go about submitting their artwork to be featured?
I'm pretty sure I have it on my website where you can submit their artwork. They send it to our email.
Okay.
Our email is easy. It's cartoonsmagazine@gmail.com.
Yep.
Cool.
And all I ask is send a good scan of your artwork, include your full name and your hometown.
Okay.
And then so when they see the artwork on that page, they'll have their name and where they live under it. So.
All right,
Awesome.
Gearheads, you heard it.
That's right.
It's easy. You can be published too. So there's your in. So who knows? You might be considered on staff at that point.
There you go.
So last kind of question about the business and how the business works. Prior to this, and maybe even post-COVID, the world that we live in now, were y'all all in one place? Do y'all work remotely? How do y'all function as an entity?
Well, besides my artists doing the comic strip content,
Right.
everything else, and I mean everything else, I do myself. I do all this, the social media pages. I create the content that I post on there. I deal with all the customer service. I deal with the orders, the packaging, getting them ready, shipping them out. Like, I do everything. There's no employees here with me. It's one man show. And so with my artists and working with them, it's all done by email and social media.
That's crazy.
So, yeah.
Taking it
It's
into
fun.
the new age.
Yeah.
Well, it's a love-hate relationship. Like, it's like anything. If you take a painter, right? And a painter would going through the whole process of all that work to get that car all prepped and sanded and the body work and painted, and all that process is a pain.
Yeah.
But the outcome is what's great.
Yeah.
Right? Once it's finished and you look at it, it was just that all that work was just worth it. And that's the same with publishing a magazine.
Well said.
You
Very well said.
Yeah.
All right. So before we end, we've got a segment Matt likes to call
Random Misfire.
in which we will just hit you with a few quick, pepper you with a few questions back and forth. Just kind of give your quick thoughts on it, and we'll move on. So, Matt, you want to start us off on that?
Yeah, so these questions, some of them are either-or questions. Some of them are just favorite this or that. But we'll just kind of fire off down through here, and I'll hit you with a few of them. It's random misfire, so there's 8 of them because all engines should come with 8 cylinders, right? So
For sure.
Yes.
if you're ready, we will jump right in. And
I'll give it a shot.
all right, I'm going to hit you hard with this first one. Built
Oh, boy.
or bought?
You know what? That's a tough question because a lot of guys who build, they would say built over
Right.
bought. But not everybody has the skills to build,
Yeah.
right? Not everybody can pick up a wrench and build a car. So like, if they have zero skills but love cars, there's nothing
That's me.
wrong with bought.
Yeah.
That's me.
But if you are a mechanic and you can build a car, then it's sacrilegious to buy one when you can actually build it, right? So
yeah.
that is.
Yeah.
All
Cool.
right. Manual or
I
automatic?
say both. Well, for me, manual all day
Yes.
long.
Yes.
I could drive a daily driver manual all the time. I did it. I've done it. My truck now is automatic. I miss it, and I'd like to get a manual again. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Favorite road trip snack?
favorite road trip snack. That's a good question. Let's just go with Doritos.
Okay, that'll work.
Can't go wrong there. Any particular flavor? Digging a little deeper into that.
I love jalapeno.
Oh, okay.
Nice,
All right.
Nice.
Yeah,
All right.
That's a good flavor. I don't know if they have that in the States because I'm here up in Canada. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Have jalapeno Doritos?
I don't think so. We have spicy nacho.
You would think in Texas, but
yeah. That would make sense in Texas,
Yes.
but
all right. So this one's a personal one to me. So I'm going to take your answer very personally. No pressure. Do you name your cars?
Do I name my cars? No, I don't. I go through so many cars, I can't. I'd probably run out of names.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
yeah.
I've gotten into the habit where, like, as I'm mentally shopping for them, I'm already trying to come up with a name. So if the truck I get next is the one I want, I've already got the name for her picked out. So I'm just
Which is
weird like
great.
that.
No, I respect that.
More technology or less technology?
That's a tough one too. Up here in Canada or even the States, when you're dealing with icy roads and you're dealing with salt and that, when you have more technology, that technology relies on grounds. And when your vehicle starts rusting, that technology goes for a crap, right? So, but if you're way down south, I'd go with technology for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. But that's for daily driving. But if you're doing your you got your hot rod or whatever that you take out once in a while, you got to go non-technology on that one.
There you go.
Yeah,
good old carbureted and all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
I'm a tech nerd, and for my daily, like, my wife's Jeep has got everything under the sun in it, but my dream car is a 1969 Camaro, and I don't want any technology. I want it original. So there's that back and forth dichotomy there that you got to deal with. So leads me into my favorite car, 1969 Camaro. What would you say yours is?
Like I said, I got so many, but my ultimate dream car, and I've said this before, is a 1940 Lincoln Zephyr 3-window coupe.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, and not keeping it original. Me, I'd love to lead sled it.
Yeah.
All the collectors would hate me for it, but they look beautiful, just dropped to the ground, skirted, lead sledded right out. They're gorgeous cars. They're very rare cars.
Yeah.
And if you want to buy one, they're a pretty penny. So that's why I don't have one.
To your point earlier, there's just something about the design, the pre-war design, the curves that has kind of been lost in modern design. There's a totally different aesthetic that comes across. And, they're both beautiful in their own right. But yes, I would agree with you on that one. There's something special about those curvy older models.
Definitely. All right, last question.
Wait, we got two more.
We got two more?
Yeah, you got one, I got one.
Okay, all right. So next to last question. You live up north, obviously in Canada, so I know you do a lot of driving in the snow. Would you prefer to drive on-road or off-road?
On-road or off-road? Well, off-road's more fun.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I've done it. I had an 86 Toyota 4Runner.
Okay.
Jacked up on 40-inch tires.
Nice.
And it was a 4-cylinder 5-speed, but it had extremely steep gears. So that little 4-banger turned those 40s like nothing.
Yeah.
And the places that thing went is great memories.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
awesome.
yeah, off-road.
So
More fun off-road for sure.
Oh, yeah.
we will hit you up with a fun one. You've already alluded to one. I hope it's not the answer to this question, but favorite car movie?
Favorite car movie? Oh, boy. That even gets better.
I know, right? And there's so many to choose from.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go with Christine.
Yeah?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Actually, I just watched that a couple days ago with my 13-year-old daughter. So
Awesome.
Very cool.
She wanted to see a scary movie. I said, I got one for you.
Oh, yeah.
And then at the end, she's like, that wasn't that scary. So.
Teenagers,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, Marc, we absolutely appreciate you coming on with us and just spending some time talking about your magazine, talking about cars, because that's what this is, a discussion about all things automotive. And we just truly appreciate your time. And just one more time, why don't you let our listeners know where and how they can find you and find your magazine?
Well, the easiest bet is just go straight to our website, and that is cartoonsmag.com. On that website, you can search retail stores around you that sell cartoons. If you don't want to have to deal with that, you can just simply subscribe to cartoons and start getting them in the mail, 6 issues a year. We also have a lot of swag like shirts, hats. We got stickers, posters, nice. And we got all the back issues with a few limited ones too. And actually, I should mention too, what we're doing right now is we're doing a cover contest. And I don't know if you know, in the comic book industry, they've been doing it for 8 years, is a lot of the big comics will create these blank covered comic books, and they call them sketch covers.
Oh, cool.
So like an artist can buy like a Batman comic and illustrate their own cover of a Batman comic book. So I went with that concept, and I got one here. I'll show you.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I chose the right paper. They sent me samples, and I tested out what would work best with pencil crayon and watercolor and markers and all that. I chose the best one. We created these covers on the actual magazine, so now people can do their own custom covers and have it in their collection. But we're having a contest where if you order one of these, you draw the ultimate cover, and starting in September, we're going to have voting online on social media.
Okay. And
the winner gets money, and they also get their cover published in cartoons to be on newsstands everywhere. So
that's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. And all the details of that contest is on the homepage at cartoonsmag.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We look forward to getting this episode out on the air and sharing it with all our listeners and all your fans, and just truly appreciate your time.
For sure. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
We cannot thank Marc enough for taking time to sit down and talk with us about the industry, his magazine, and just chatting with us, right, Matt?
Awesome discussion.
Awesome. You can find out more about Marc and his magazine, Cartoons Magazine, at cartoonsmag.com. You can find out more about us by liking us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are all at GT Garage Talk. Or you can go to our website, gtgaragetalk.com. Find out everything you need to know about us.
Next week's episode. Be sure to come back for next week's episode, because we get to discuss all things automotive with a TV star.
Until next time, bye. Hey Gearheads, Cory here. And if you liked that interview and would like to hear more, even a blooper or two from our recording, head over to patreon.com/GTGarageTalk. Sign up for our 1LT Camaro tier, and you will be granted early access to unedited episodes. You will get to hear everything that goes into Matt and I making a recording of Garage Talk, as well as some bonus content from our guest. If that's not enough, browse through our many other tiers and see what perks come with each level. We appreciate all of you, and we thank you for listening.